you are watching Shalom World News. I'm Marina Grosu from Washington, D.C. Here are the latest headlines from around the world. Coptic Orthodox Patriarch Tawadros II joined Pope Francis in greeting the faithful at St. Peter's Square on Wednesday during the general audience. This is for the first time that a head of the Coptic Church is addressing Catholics during the general audience. Tawadros II said despite the differences, both churches are united by the love of Jesus and all the apostolic fathers and saints who surround and guide believers. The Patriarch also thanked the Holy Father for his visit to Egypt in 2017. He also recalled his trip to the Holy See a decade ago, wherein he suggested commemorating May 10th as the annual day of Coptic Catholic friendship. This visit commemorates the Golden Jubilee of the visit of Patriarch Shenouda to the Vatican, where he was received by Pope Paul VI. Both church leaders signed a Christological agreement bringing an end to a 1,500-year-old theological dispute. The bleak possibility of record hunger levels in Sudan is becoming more and more plausible as the fierce combat rages on in the African nation, according to the estimates of the United Nations. The conflict that broke out on April 15th between forces loyal to opposing generals Abdel Fattah al-Burhan and Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo is anticipated to cause between 2 to 2.5 million more people to experience severe hunger in the coming months, says the World Food Program. It says that this will result in record high food insecurity in Sudan, affecting 2/5 of the population. The UN organization predicts that West Darfur, West Kordofan, and the Blue Nile might see the highest increases in food insecurity. UN High Commissioner for Refugees Filippo Grandi tweeted that more than 150,000 individuals have already left Sudan because of the conflict. He also stressed the need for urgent help in the region. Following a series of airstrikes this week in Palestinian territory that resulted in the deaths of 3 prominent terrorist group members, Palestinian militants launched waves of rockets into Israel on Wednesday. The southern cities of Ashkelon and Sderot were hit by a volley of missiles, said the Israeli Defense Forces. There are no reports of any casualties. Most rockets that tried to penetrate Israeli airspace were shot down by the Iron Dome missile defense system. Nevertheless, throughout Wednesday, sirens wailed throughout central and southern Israel, and people fled to safety. Meanwhile, the Israeli Defense Forces carried out more operations in the West Bank, making numerous arrests and killing 2 Palestinians in the process. The barrage of missiles comes just one day after a series of airstrikes by Israeli troops in Gaza resulted in the deaths of 15 civilians. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that any attacks on Israeli territory would be met with immediate and strong punishment. In the U.S. state of Louisiana, lawmakers are advancing a bill that prohibits teachers or school employees from discussing sexual orientation or gender identity in classrooms. On Tuesday, May 9th, lawmakers advanced the legislation and it was passed in the House, 67 to 28. The bill now moves to the Senate, dominated by Republicans. It is expected that the legislation will be passed by Senate members. The bill stipulates that K-12 public school staff should not discuss sexual orientation and gender identity in school and during extracurricular activities in a manner that deviates from state content standards or curricula developed or approved by the public school governing authority. It also mandates that a teacher should use a student's name and pronouns that align with his or her biological sex. Those supporting the legislation say that it will protect children and permit parents to have a say in how and when to address the topics, such as sexual orientation and gender identity. Every year, over 4.5 million women and newborns lose their lives during pregnancy, childbirth, or the first few weeks after birth, according to a report released by the World Health Organization. This means that there is 1 fatality every 7 seconds, and most of which could be avoided or treated if appropriate treatment was accessible. The World Health Organization report, released on Tuesday, says that due to declining spending on maternal and newborn health, global progress in lowering the early mortality of pregnant women, mothers, and babies has been in stagnation for 8 years. The report analyzes the most recent statistics, which share similar risk factors and causes, and keeps tabs on the delivery of crucial medical services. The analysis demonstrates that improvements in survival have stalled since 2015, as evidenced by the annual average of 290,000 maternal fatalities, 1.9 million stillbirths, or babies who die after 28 weeks of pregnancy. A startling 2.3 million infants died during the first month after birth. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has said that China cannot intimidate Canada. He made this comment after Beijing expelled a Canadian diplomat from the consulate in Shanghai on Tuesday. Canada removed Chinese diplomat Zhao Wei from his position after it was discovered that he had been involved in an intimidation scheme targeting Canadian lawmaker Michael Chong and his family in Hong Kong. This was followed by Beijing's retaliatory measure, which was condemned by Trudeau. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Wang Wenbin said that this was a reciprocal countermeasure taken in reaction to Canada's provocation to protect China's lawful rights and interests. He said the action was completely justified and consistent with established diplomatic practice. Trudeau shot back at China's response and said that they will not be intimidated and will continue to do everything necessary to keep Canadians protected from foreign interference. American Border Patrol agents are holding more than 10,000 migrants at the border after they attempted to cross over illegally. The migrants were held on May 8th and 9th. So far, 28,500 migrants are in custody as the Title 42 public health order comes to a close today. The order has been in effect since March 2020, and it was used by the Trump and Biden administrations to deport hundreds of thousands of migrants amid the spreading pandemic. According to officials, there are fears that an unprecedented number of migrants might head for the U.S. border once the order comes to an end. Earlier, officials had feared arrivals of up to 14,000 migrants a day at the border. Brownsville and El Paso on the border are witnessing a surge in the number of migrants. Thousands can be seen setting up camps on the streets. Officials are undertaking an enforcement operation to hand out pamphlets urging them to move to processing centers in the vicinity. The United States Embassy in Pakistan issued a security alert on Wednesday as widespread protests erupted across the nation following the arrest of former Prime Minister Imran Khan. At least 8 people lost their lives and 100 others were injured in violent clashes. The embassy released a statement informing the cancellation of all consular appointments until Friday. It has requested Americans to avoid large crowds and movement and assured that the embassy would be open for emergency services. In what seems to be one of the world's worst education crises, more than 2 million children remain out of school in Ethiopia. An NGO named Save the Children said about 2.3 million children are out of schools in northern Ethiopia and the Tigray region. The situation worsened after the withdrawal of various humanitarian services because of the armed conflict. Many of the schools in the East African country are occupied by the armed forces and militants driving out the children. Nearly 85% of schools suffered partial or total damage during the 3 years of war. As the donors have suspended humanitarian assistance, more than 22,500 teachers in the region have not been paid for more than 2 years. Some schools were expected to reopen between April and May this year, but insufficient resources forced the plan to be abandoned. Catholic bishops of the Central African nation of Chad are expressing concern over the inter-community clashes. The Bishops' Commission for Justice and Peace is seeking concrete efforts for peace in the country. The commission decried the lack of proper government measures against the recurring attacks. In addition, the prelates are expressing grave concerns about the resumption of inter-community hostilities, despite the National Sovereign Inclusive Dialogue, which was supposed to unite Chadians and provide peace and security. Meanwhile, the bishops are also warning about social media campaigns aiming to incite hatred among people. The commission also wants the government to take action against the perpetrators of violence. The prelates also urge the people of faith to remain calm and continue the prayers amidst the violence. There are reports that Christians in the Islamic Republic of Iran are being monitored with spyware and other technological means to keep track of their speech, movements, and activities. The snooping has become more intense after street protests broke out following the death of 22-year-old Masa Amini, in the custody of the Morality Brigade following alleged custodial torture. According to USA-based Lookout Threat Lab, the massive espionage campaign is the brainchild of intelligence officials who are connected with the disciplinary force of the Islamic Republic of Iran, known as Faraja. Over the past 2 years, as many as 487 mobile devices have been infected with the Bold Spy program that fetches conversation screenshots, photos, and video calls made using WhatsApp and Telegram. The American outfit has said that most of those who are surveyed are in Kurdistan, Sistan, and Baluchistan, and in the province of Western Baluchistan, which is the home to a large number of Armenian, Assyrian, and Chaldean Christians. The U.S. Federal Bureau of Investigation is offering a reward for information on the perpetrator responsible for vandalizing a pregnancy resource center in the U.S. state of Iowa last year. Officials have promised a reward of $15,000 to anyone providing information about the attack at the Agape Pregnancy Resource Center on June 3rd last year. The building was vandalized with spray paint on doors and windows, and its windows were also broken. A far-left pro-abortion group, Jane's Revenge, had claimed credit for the attack. However, the FBI officials were unable to find the perpetrator, so the Bureau's Omaha office came up with the idea of announcing an award. Spanish bishops are criticizing a constitutional court ruling that approves the 2010 abortion law as a woman's right. The Episcopal Conference is urging the faithful to oppose this attack on the preborn and to defend the culture of life. Stressing that the voluntary killing of a preborn baby is morally wrong, the episcopate pointed out that they are also human beings. The bishop said that endorsing abortion makes the preborn child a candidate for expulsion from the womb. The prelates also encouraged doctors to exercise their right to conscience to save lives. In the Latin American nation of Colombia, the 17th annual National March for Life will take place on Saturday, June 3rd. The rally is being organized by the United for Life platform, which was founded in 2006 as a result of the Constitutional Court's decriminalization of abortion. It will bring together thousands of individuals in several locations across Colombia. Bogota, Bucaramanga, Manizales, Pasto, Pereira, and San Jose del Guaviare are just a few of the cities where pro-life supporters will march in support of the rights of the preborn. Other cities will be added in the coming days. And those are your latest headlines. Join us again tomorrow for more. You can also visit swnews.org for more updates. Shalom.